A decade ago, a shy, trembling teenager walked onto a global stage and silenced the harshest critics in the world with a voice that seemed to belong to another century. But as we move into 2026, the headlines surrounding Jonathan Antoine aren't about his vocal range. They're about a total metamorphosis that has left the industry in a state of shock. From a radical physical transformation to a series of massive revelations about his neurological health, the man standing before us today bears almost no resemblance to the boy who once captured Simon Cowell's heart. Tonight, we go behind the curtain to examine the new era of Jonathan Antoine, a journey defined by hidden struggles, recent heartbreak, and a bold refusal to remain the person the world expects him to be. The invisible battle hook. While the world saw a prodigy, Jonathan Antoine was trapped in a cognitive maze that no one, not even his closest fans, could have imagined. For years, the media painted Jonathan as the shy opera singer, a label that simplified a much more complex internal reality. However, investigative looks into his recent memoirs and interviews reveal a man who was living in a constant state of sensory overload. It wasn't until his late 20s that the shocking truth was finally categorized: a formal autism diagnosis. This wasn't just a medical label, it was the key to unlocking a decade of misunderstood behavior. Jonathan has recently opened up about how he felt he was acting every single day, trying to mimic normal social cues while his mind was processing the world in high definition. This diagnosis in the last few years has completely reframed his BGT journey. He wasn't just nervous, he was navigating a neurodivergent experience in the harshest spotlight imaginable. Reporters close to the singer note that this revelation has changed his entire approach to the industry. He no longer seeks to fit into the classical mold. Instead, he's using his platform to advocate for neurodiversity, admitting that for years, he was being treated for the wrong things by specialists who didn't see the full picture. This mental liberation was the first domino to fall, leading to a physical change that would eventually break the internet. He describes his past self as someone living in a fog that only started to clear once he understood the way his brain was actually wired. This internal clarity has become the foundation for his 2026 comeback, but it also raised questions about whether the industry ignored his struggles in favor of a good story. The narrative of the broken boy was profitable, but for Jonathan, it was a prison that he is only now, in 2026, finally escaping. The radical transformation hook. If you saw him walking down the street today, you wouldn't just fail to recognize him. You'd likely think you were looking at a completely different human being. The physical change in Jonathan Antoine is nothing short of a medical marvel, fueled by a level of discipline that borders on the obsessive. We've uncovered reports that during the height of his transition, Jonathan committed to a relentless movement regimen that would break a professional athlete. He didn't just join a gym, he changed the way he occupied space. He revealed that he began hitting a minimum of 10,000 steps every single day, even if it meant packing in circles within the confines of a small hotel room while on tour. This wasn't about vanity. It was about taking control of a body he felt he had lost touch with during his teen years. The unrecognizable photos circulating in early 2026 show a man who has shed a significant amount of weight, but more importantly, he has shed the slumped posture of his youth. Critics and fans alike have speculated about how he achieved such a drastic shift so quickly, with some pointing to recent health scares as the catalyst. However, Jonathan maintains that it was a slow, agonizing process of choosing himself over the convenience of his old habits. He admitted that during his early years in America, the temptation of fast food and the sedentary lifestyle of a touring musician nearly led him down a dark path. He's spoken about feeling stronger than he has in 10 years, a statement that carries a heavy weight considering the health issues he faced as a teenager. This new face of Jonathan Antoine isn't just about a diet, it's a visual representation of his mental shift. By the time his 2026 tour dates were announced, the public reaction was polarized. Some miss the cuddly image of the BGT star, but Jonathan has made it clear that that person no longer exists. He is reinventing the machine, and this physical overhaul was the necessary evidence that he is no longer under the control of those who wanted him to stay the same. The break from the machine hook. Behind the scenes of the world's biggest talent show, a resentment was simmering that would eventually lead Jonathan to walk away from the very hand that fed him. It's the question every fan asks. Why don't we see Jonathan on the best of specials or the anniversary galas? The answer lies in a deep-seated conflict with the talent show industrial complex. Recent reports suggest that Jonathan's relationship with the Britain's Got Talent legacy is complicated, at best. He has gone on record describing the sinking feeling of the 2012 finale, not because he lost, but because of the realization that his entire future was being dictated by a television narrative. He famously lost to a dancing dog, a moment that the media treated as a joke, but for a 17-year-old with immense vocal talent, it was a shocking wake-up call about the nature of fame. Since then, he has purposefully distanced himself from Simon Cowell's orbit. While he remains professional, he has declined multiple invitations to return to the BGT stage, opting instead to build an independent career that doesn't rely on sob stories or manipulated edits. In 2026, this defiance has become his trademark. He is no longer the compliant contestant. Industry insiders whisper that he felt the show boxed him in, trying to force him into a Pavarotti-like persona that ignored his actual musical interests. His recent 2026 releases are a direct middle finger to that box. He's experimenting with pop crossover and modern production, styles that the BGT judges likely would have frowned upon. This isn't just a career move, it's a declaration of independence. He's proven that he can survive without the Cowell stamp of approval, and in doing so, he's become a blueprint for other talent show alumni who feel trapped by their origin stories. The BGT boy is dead, and in his place is a savvy, independent artist who knows exactly what his voice is worth. A new sonic identity hook. In early 2026, Jonathan released a single that did something his operatic arias never could. It divided his fan base right down the middle. The release of All of Me in January 2026 wasn't just a cover song, it was a tactical shift in his musical DNA. For years, Jonathan was the opera king, expected to deliver soaring, classical notes that felt safe and traditional. But his new album, Speaking to You, is a radical departure. We've analyzed the production of these new tracks, and they feature a vulnerability and a modern edge that many classical purists find controversial. Jonathan is no longer hiding behind the wall of sound that grand opera provides. Instead, he's using a more conversational, intimate tone that showcases a different side of his vocal ability. This shift has sparked massive debate online, with some fans claiming he's abandoning his gift, while others celebrate his artistic courage. This move into the pop crossover space is a calculated risk. Jonathan has admitted that he spent years feeling like he was singing for other people, and that 2026 is the year he finally sings for himself. The shocking part of this transition is how well it's working. Despite the backlash from traditionalists, his streaming numbers are hitting all-time highs, proving that there is a massive audience for a modern Jonathan Antoine. He's taking the mysterious and grand elements of his voice and applying them to songs that people actually listen to in their everyday lives. This new era is defined by a refusal to be a museum piece. He doesn't want to be a relic of the past. He wants to be the sound of the future. By blending his classical training with 2026 production values, he is carving out a niche that didn't exist before. It's a bold gamble, but as the charts show, it's one that is paying off in a massive way. The cost of the comeback hook. Just as Jonathan was reaching the pinnacle of his new era, a series of private tragedies threatened to derail everything he had worked for. Fame often demands a high price, but for Jonathan, the cost has been deeply personal. While the world was focused on his weight loss and his new music, Jonathan was dealing with the heartbreaking loss of his most loyal companions. In the lead-up to his 2026 album release, he shared the news that his cat Polly had passed away at the age of 20, followed closely by her sister Pandora. For an artist who has been vocal about his struggles with social anxiety and his neurodivergent need for routine, these losses were catastrophic. He described these pets as the stable anchors in a world that was constantly changing. This grief has added a somber and raw layer to his recent performances, with fans noticing a new depth in his voice that wasn't there before. This isn't the only challenge he's faced. He's also had to navigate the toxic side of social media, where rumors about his health and personal life have run rampant. Some speculated that his rapid transformation was the result of unhealthy methods, forcing Jonathan to defend his journey and be transparent about his struggles with self-discipline. He's also had to deal with the pressure of being an icon for the autism community, a role he didn't necessarily ask for but has embraced with grace. These challenges have forged a different kind of artist, one who is no longer afraid of showing the cracks. In his latest interviews, he stopped trying to be the perfect prodigy and has started being the authentic man. This vulnerability is what's driving the massive fan reaction in 2026. People aren't just clicking for the voice anymore. They're clicking for the story of a man who survived the industry grinder and came out the other side with his soul intact. Jonathan Antoine's journey from a terrified teenager to a 2026 global powerhouse is a testament to the power of self-reinvention. He has systematically dismantled every label the world tried to put on him: the opera boy, the BGT loser, the shy kid, and replaced them with a persona that is entirely his own. As we look at his unrecognizable form today, it's clear that the new era isn't just about music or weight loss. It's about a man who finally decided that he was enough just as he is. But as the modern Pavarotti continues to evolve, we have to ask ourselves, are we ready for an artist who refuses to be fixed by the industry? Jonathan has proven that you can lose the competition and still win the war, but the question remains, in a world that demands perfection, can an authentic artist ever truly be safe?